Yes, we are alive. Thank you very much. Now I'll make my opening speech and then I'll give you the words one by one. Dear valuable audience, stakeholders of energy and wind industry, I'm thrilled to moderate tonight's panel as we are going to speak about development of wind industry and beyond. I'm also taking this opportunity to call our citizens to stay at home and protect themselves from COVID-19. Before we start, I have to ask all of our guests for a verbal approval to record and share this panel due to personal data protection law. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Güray Bey?
Me too.
Thank you. My name is Sedef Budak. I am the founder and president of Turkish Women in Renewables and Energy Network, TWRE, which is a business network for energy transition and gender equality movement since 2018. I am also one of the few women entrepreneurs in the renewable industry, an independent technical consultant working in wind and solar since 2007. I am representing Wind4 Consulting since 2012, which is now under Vector Renewables and performed more than 2 gigawatt contracts in wind in Turkey. As TWRE, this is our 10th Green Talk session, in addition to 25 different green calls and 16 different green class events during the pandemic. This is a gender equal event, as all industry should be. I'm honored to introduce my guests, starting with Alkım Hanım, Alkım Ba. She has undergraduate degree from Middle East Technical University and graduate degree from Kili University, Department of International Relations with special focus on energy politics. She worked in, defense industry at first, then continued her career working for British Council and had active role in different projects in between Turkish and British governments. She's holding the position of Chief Strategy Officer at Polat Energy, which is the biggest asset owner in wind industry, where she was working since 2008. Actually, that's how we met with her back in those days. So she was one of the few women I was happy to meet with during my career in energy. So thank you, Alkım Hanım, accepting my invitation.
Thank you very much.
And additional information, Polat Energy owns 559 megawatt electric capacity in wind power plant projects. And of course, Alkım Hanım is a fellow member of TWRE. My second guest is Güray Erol. He's actually celebrated his 10th year in the renewable industry. He has successfully leveraged his career from business development expert to upper management and finally C-level professional in energy. He graduated from Galatasaray University with a bachelor degree in public administration and political science back in 2001. And then he has MBA degree from University of Oberta from Spain. He started his professional career working at Doğuş Holding for various responsibilities in construction and tourism sectors. He served as the head of project manager and chief advisor to the investment office of the presidency of Republic of Turkey. He worked in Turkish Holding as business developer coordinator and then as a deputy general manager for energy business. And since 2016, he's working as a general manager at RES Anatolia, the Turkish subsidiary of RES Group, a global renewable energy company, expert on project development and investments in wind, solar, energy storage activities with portfolio over 19 gigawatt. And now Güray Bey is elected board of Turkish Wind Energy Association board member since 2019 and now currently holding chairman position. Güray Bey, I appreciate for you to accept our invitation. I know you have been very busy, but we are very happy to see you with us tonight.
It's my pleasure and good evening to all followers.
And my third guest, Dr. Ioannis Tsipouridis, right? Am I saying right? An executive and a true expert from Greece with 42 years of journey in renewables and climate change. He is a chemical engineer who had his master's science degree in fuel and energy from Science Research Council, and he completed his PhD degree in solar energy, actually, from Leeds University, England, back in 1978. He started as a junior engineer at PPC company in early 80s, and he was involved with the installation of wind and solar energy projects of the Greek islands. He co-founded the Hellenic Wind Energy Association back in 1991, and he served continuously in its board until 2017. He was chairman and CEO from 2003 to 2010. He developed many projects, and he was chosen and awarded as being outstanding wind energy personalities back in his own country. Many of his extreme efforts and success to spread the mindset of the importance of clean energy, he served his country well, and he was the head of the cabinet office of the Deputy Minister of Environment, Energy and Climate Change, Professor Maniatis. He also had the privilege to participate in the historic COP events 21, 22 till 25 global climate conferences. So as you see, he has many hats, but I will just only make his few, recent responsibilities of his. He is now senior advisor for Horizon 2020, Paris Reinforce project, right, Mr. Ioannis? Reinforce project.
Yeah.
Visiting professor at the Technical University of Mombasa, and chairman of NGO Africa, which stands for Africa for Renewables in Climate Action, and currently running his company, RedPro Renewable Energy Development Professions. So that's a great honor to have you here with us today as well. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome again.
It's my real pleasure. Believe me, I feel at home. And I will give you one more reason why I feel at home. I did not tell you that. My father was born in Farasa, Kayseri. So I'm home.
Oh, perfect. Very nice. So if it's okay, I would like to start our panel with my first question to Alkım Hanım. Alkım Hanım, how Polat Energy become the biggest investor in the Turkish wind industry? Can we get deeper inside of the company and the assets itself? And also later, what is your expectations from the markets for the coming future for the wind, of course?
Sure. Thank you, Sedef. So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you in this platform. So with your permission, I'm going to just share a short presentation about Polat Energy. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, Polat Energy is actually one of the first companies invested in wind in Turkey. Founded in 2000, long before the issuance of renewable energy law or any kind of renewable energy legislation at all. It was a pioneer not only in wind energy, but also contributed to the policy making through its relations with policymakers. The founder and the CEO of the company actively lobbied for the issuance of the renewable energy law, and our investments started after the issuance of this law in 2005, actually, and the declaration of the feed-in tariff scheme supported with a local content incentive. So basically, our first power plant was commissioned in 2009, which is Soma power plant, the largest wind energy plant of Turkey. And meanwhile, we signed some partnership agreements. So first in 2008, we became partners with EDF Renewables, which is the renewable energy arm of a big French utility, EDF, and is largely owned by the French states. It's active in 20 countries, and it has an installed power of 13 gigawatts with a 4 gigawatts in the pipeline. Another partner we have is PSP Investments, and it's a Canadian Crown company. It's one of Canada's largest pension funds with 168 billion of Canadian dollars under management. It also has 4 gigawatts of renewable energy in solar, wind, and hydro. So as of today, we have an installed wind capacity of 560 megawatts, out of a total installed capacity of 8.3 gigawatts, which is around a bit more than 7% of the total installed power. Actually, you know, the installations are going quite fast nowadays because the investors are speeding up to catch the latest parts of YEKTAN, the feed-in tariff scheme. So I'm not sure even we are still the biggest actually. Maybe we are, you know, superseded with other investors. There are others increasing their installed capacities quite fast. So you can see the distribution of locations of our power plants. So today we have a total installed power of 585 megawatts. So 26 megawatt of this is our jingle, a solar PV plant, and the rest is wind power plant. We are generating 1.6 terawatt hours each year, meeting the consumption of 500,000 people and offsetting 875,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. I will skip these fast, but I just want to emphasize we are owning the two of the 4 largest wind parks of Turkey. Soma is the largest one with 288 megawatts. Its operations is since 2009. And we also have a Geycek wind park in central Anatolia with an installed power of 168 megawatts. So overall, you know, through the years, we became the largest investor in Turkey in terms of wind, largely thanks to the, you know, current feed-in tariff mechanism. So this feed-in tariff mechanism created a large industry, basically, and it was supported by a local content incentive. So today, I think Güray Bey will give more details about this, about the installed power, about the sector, and other details. But we have enlarged our portfolio with the current incentives. So Sedef, if you want, I can stop here, or I can just skip to our expectations from the market.
Yes, please do. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me stop this. Okay. So our biggest, let's say, expectation from the market now in Turkey, or let's say the greatest problem we have, is lack of visibility. Nowadays, I think everybody will say the same. There is a big lack of visibility in terms of what will be the, you know, future. In terms of feed-in tariff, we still don't know the new feed-in tariff scheme. We don't have an auction calendar. So now in the sector, there are 15,000 people working in the renewable energy sector of Turkey, wind sector basically. So Turkey has become an important manufacturing base. All the components are manufactured in Turkey's tower, blades, generators. They are exported to other countries from Turkey. There are 100 different investors. There are 70 companies, you know, involved in manufacturing turbines. So a huge sector consisting of turbine manufacturers, investors, advisors, bankers, and consultants, etc. And the future of this sector is really heavily depends on the the auctions, the capacities to be allocated to the sector. Today we don't know this really. Our biggest expectation is the clarification of the new feed-in tariff scheme. The auction calendars, the tenders in Turkey are constantly postponed. So we are expecting at least a package of minimum 5 years of, auction calendar so that we can see ahead what will be the future. Auction rules are also important. It's one of the problematic areas, in my opinion. All over the world, auctions are really important to, to get the cheapest electricity for the consumers on the one hand, and on the other hand, it should provide a stable income for the investors to finance their projects. So creating this balance is really important. And for this, the auction rules must be designed very well. Otherwise, you have competitors just if the price is the only criterion as in Turkey, bringing down the price to lower and lower. And at the end, we have projects which are not realized. So what we ask from the policymakers basically is that as a part of this visibility, please define the rules carefully. Please set a price floor for the auctions, a reasonable price floor, and select serious bidders through not only price, but as in the other examples in the world, there can be some technical criteria, there can be financial criteria to be fulfilled so that the really serious investors and actually well-developed projects are licensed and the installed power of Turkey can increase much more quickly. Today, 8 gigawatt is a success, but when we compare it with the potential of Turkey, it's nothing, it's just less than 15% of the wind potential of Turkey. We have a huge potential onshore and offshore. So, and we are quite beyond our targets for, our target was 20 gigawatts for 2020 in terms of wind. So it can be better. What we need is visibility. What we need is simple and clear rules for auctions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And now it is actually, it was a very, very rapid and very quick, 10 years we just all passed, we all experienced since 2010. And even though we have some obstacles, the laws and legislations and also technical specifications, even to have a measurement mast rule, like legislation for the measurement mast and, to be registered and, for 1 year of measurement and blah, blah, even to bring some engineer standards to have a qualified, to have a proper development, in the pre-auction stage. That was something. And during all the years, I believe Energy Ministry, like Regulatory Authority, PDK, worked quite hard, and they really bring some standards. But again, now we come to the end of the nice story, Ektem, and nobody knows what is happening next. And for the power purchase agreement or to switching the merchant market, we don't have any kind of guide yet that I will actually ask Güray about it. And we don't know how to deal with it and who will produce, who will sell to whom. So it is kind of actually we are happening the milestone, a strong change this year, in addition to, it was the Yektam was coming to end, and now the pandemic happened. So it was like all the year become, unfortunately, go to the rubbish bin. People continue to, complete the constructions that the investor who started, but still for the new ones or the planned one, or, people just waiting for some project finance confirmations. Everything was just on hold, and it was a big loss of not 1 year, maybe a couple of years of income loss and the completion of the investment. So I totally agree with you, Alkim, and we should have much clear, of course, view of it. So Güray Bey, now I would like to hear, first of all, you are general manager of the West Anatolia, which is an important and very experienced project development and execution group. I would like to ask you, how do you find the wind sector process during your career in the wind industry? Then I will ask you some questions as a chairman of TWRE.
Thanks a lot. It was also nice to hear Alkim at first from the eyes of the largest investor, the long-term, largest, the most international partner investors in Turkey. I think independent than its size or character, I guess any of our wind industry stakeholders will present almost the same view. We were expecting a lot. We have done a lot, but we are somehow not reaching to our targets, and we are still interested to invest in more. I have a total of 13 years in energy business. The first 3 years was with the current investment office, former investment support and promotion agency. So I was in the public side to promote the very fresh Turkish feed-in tariff and the renewable energy law to foreign investors, mostly international ones, but also local ones. And then by 2010, I have rejoined to the private industry in different companies, working a lot for the development, a lot in the M&As, a lot in the construction, investment, etc. So in my 13 years of experience, I have seen different cases, different periods of times. But the most important things, it was always an evolution of things. Imagine and please remember days that we were dealing, we were working, we were optimizing sites with only 1 or 1.5 megawatts of turbines.
Yes.
Probably, Ioannis, you will remember even smaller turbines than us. But that was the reality of our day. The first 2 megawatt turbine was something.
Yes,
I do remember visiting, not necessary to mention the name, but the showcase site of one wind turbine manufacturer who installed 6 megawatt turbine at 2011, 2012. It was incredible. So size were small, hub heights were much more small, costs were high, not really double, but not less than one and a half time bigger at that times. The processes were simpler or not that defined. We had less competition. We had for sure less knowledge, but I remember that we had more curiosity from every stakeholder. I'm somehow dividing this period of time, kind of our first era or first part and second part of the era, of this first era of the Turkish wind industry, from 98, when our first wind farm has been commissioned, up to 2014, when the first times the Turkish wind turbines applied for YEKDEM. Mm-hmm. And from this 2014 towards today. I believe at that time we had less knowledge, but more curiosity. Now we have much more knowledge, but less opportunities. Yes. We have larger turbines. We have more reasonable prices in CapExes and OpExes. We have, for sure, more complex skill sets. We have large HR pool in all positions, in all expertise areas, and so on. But we have, unfortunately, less opportunities. The character of the wind industry has been changed. At first, it was a developers market, then became investors market. But nowadays, by 2020 and beyond, we do see, as in many other countries, as in many other European countries, it is becoming kind of an industrialists or suppliers market. Because Turkish wind industry, in addition to all investors and developers, it successfully created an industrial base. Some clusters like we have in Izmir, almost 80 companies manufacturing with 15 blue or white colors directly manufacturing in the industry and exporting more than 60% of what they are manufacturing as equipment, etc. So those are tremendous efforts and great successes, but we have still one big challenge, which is the sustainability and predictability of our industry. Unfortunately, by 2020, the end of feed-in tariff, Turkish YEKDEM, yes, okay, there is 6 months extension, but it's not unfortunately adding any additional megawatt to the existing ones. We are now entering to a second era where we don't have real and clear information. As TWRE, as the Turkish Wind Energy Association, we have been proposing, developing, lobbying for much more clear mechanism of feed-in tariff. Not maybe a real feed-in tariff, but more kind of an anchor pricing. Much smarter and fruitful tender mechanism. And some amelioration proposals about existing and long-lasting projects and so on, plus some facilitation on the challenging permits process. But unfortunately, since 1.5 years' time, we could not convince or we could not manage to activate key decision makers, government officials, politicians to take decisions and to put them on the table in order to create full visibility for Turkish wind industry. I think we will have clear information and more clear decisions within 2021. It may delay somehow some of our investors' appetite, but we should have at least new tenders planification, the new YEKDEM or feed-in tariff announcement and the tender mechanism clarified in, let's say, next 6 to 10 months time, in order not to lose any more time. Because as Turkish industry, as Turkish wind industry, we are dedicated to have almost 1 gigawatt brand new investment every year by having 1 gigawatt additional capacity again in every year. So that's my short explanation about my personal 13 years of experience and what the wind industry did in the last 10 years time by reaching, as of today, almost 8.6 gigawatt. As Alkim and you, Sedef Hanım, you mentioned, this is before end of December. Every of our colleagues and investors, they are looking to commission 1 more turbine in order to enjoy the feed-in tariff. So that's how we have every day new commissioned sites. I'm pretty sure that we will be ending the year by a figure around 8.7 gigawatt, 8.8 gigawatt maybe, plus adding some other hundreds of gigawatts in the course of the next year.
Yes, I mean, you mentioned about TWRE was doing its best for the lobbying and, you know, pursuing the decision makers, the government authorities to have much clearer idea. And I also know that from the TWRE that I've been following every year, and you have guested international, the American and also with Europe presidents before. And I remember that they were saying that, I mean, as in international investors or, you know, developers, if we see much clearer picture of Turkey, we are happy to come and invest, you know, like your actually companies you're presenting, RES, yes. You know, how they come in the first place. So it is not only for the local investors and developers, it's also important for, you know, to secure our representation as a Turkish market and also continue to get some new investments, new cash and also new investments to the sector itself. It's also an important engine for running, because now we are actually, we become a hub for wind and plus solar market manufacturing. As Alkim says, we do produce almost everything at the moment. So we have to keep this machine running. So yeah, this is very important. I may continue with Dr. Ioannis to understand, also to have much, I mean, general and maybe wider view of what is happening in global and Europe. And actually, Dr. Ioannis, you have lived and experienced all major milestones in the wind industry development. And so we would like to hear, I mean, European Union policies of renewable industry and wind sector base, and also the situation in Greek, what you have done, what is your expectations, how is your new tenders or mechanism is going. So we would like to learn more about much wider scale to replace where we are as Turkish wind energy market actually.
I will gladly do that. First of all, let me say that if I had $1 for every time I had this discussion about lack of visibility, I will be a rich man. It's really unbelievable that governments do not really see that. If you want to go to an excursion tomorrow, you check the weather. You want to know what the weather is like. How do we expect an investor to plan years ahead without having visibility? Even given volumes, you gotta have volumes of visibility, prices, market. I mean, it's so logical that the lack of it really begs, and I don't know what it begs. Anyway, let me share my screen. Do you see it?
Yes, yes.
I can't. Give me a second. Okay, is it there? Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay, all right, all right. So this is me, and I'm not gonna, you said it all, so let's go first to, why doesn't it move? I can't understand it. Sorry guys, give me a second.
You can also not make it full screen. You can show from.
Yes, I think, yeah, I was hoping to make it full screen, but it doesn't work that way. Can you see it now? It worked before. I can't see why it doesn't work now.
Yes, you can make it a bit bigger. Then
Let me stop sharing, and I'll come back once more. And if it doesn't work, I'll pack it in. It does not give me the handles for the presentation. So I cannot really, it's hiding the handles. I don't know why. But can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, does it move? It moves, okay, there we go. So these are the contents. And I will start with history because history is important, and as all people really rely on history to move forward. There are always valuable lessons to be learned from history. So Herod of Alexandria is supposed to be the first person to have discovered the wind wheel used to pipe, to send wind for an instrument. And that was 50 AD. And from Herod, we're going to Professor Blythe in Glasgow, who was the first guy to produce electricity from a wind machine to charge his accumulators and illuminate his property, which is really impressive. And of course, we all know that sailing has been using wind for centuries, and you can see windmills in Afghanistan, in China, in Sicily, Northern Europe, but also the Aegean, the shores of the Aegean are decorated with windmills in the islands and the shores, so we all know that wind is there. So let's move to recent history. Güray was asking about small wind turbines. This is the inauguration of a wind park, April 1982, containing 5 20 kilowatt Aeroman wind turbines. And this happens to be the first commercial wind park of Europe, by chance. It was the first time somebody installed more than one wind turbine for the same purpose. Up to that point, many people installed wind turbines alone in Denmark, in the Netherlands. That was the first time it happened on purpose, but it was by chance. And the next year, we installed a 100 kilowatt PV and a battery stack, so it was really a hybrid system. We're talking about 1983. I don't know if you guys were born then. So let's move to this slide, which is really showing the progress, the evolution of Greek installed capacity and Turkish installed capacity. And this is something I used to joke with my brother Mustafa at the 7 until whenever we met. You see how slow the Turkish progress goes. And I think you mentioned it, 2006. Suddenly shot, and now it's lost at the upper part of the graph. Why? There is a lesson here. The name of the lesson is policy. This thing was policy driven. It didn't happen on its own. And you know that the policies were correct at the time. So let's go to the present and we'll talk about Greece. Greece at the moment is installed, sorry. This is the situation. We have almost 380 gigawatts, 3.8 gigawatts. We had a windfall last year, 727 megawatts, which is really astonishing for Greece. You can see the progress is of the order of 100, 120 megawatts per year. We had an exception in 2011. But this is also a slow market and a market that's lacking volumes to really produce anything substantial, like invite foreign investors to create products or byproducts or subsystems and equipment. That was something that was always lacking. These are the major players of the Greek market. You know, TWRE perhaps is number one. It was always there. Actually, TWRE is doing so well in Greece that they're doing great in the USA. They have 500 megawatts in Texas. They have wind parks in Poland, Bulgaria. I think they're also interested in Ukraine. You see Alkım, Enel Green Power, Eren, Verdrola, EDF, which Alkim mentioned, that's they cooperate with Alkim. Enercon is there. Everybody's there with respectable portfolios. Of course, you know, they could be better. This is something you said too. Things could be really better, but they are not. They're just slower than could really expand. And this is the share of the manufacturers. Vestas is having really the lion's share. And with Enercon, they have really cornered the market. They have 3/4 of the market. The other companies are, of course, they are there, but they're far behind. I'm showing this map because these are really the investment drivers. The resource. On the left is wind, on the right is solar. You see the wind resource is really concentrated in the Aegean, but the installations did not really follow the wind resource simply because the Aegean islands are autonomously powered by dirty, polluting, imported diesel oil. And there is a technical limit to how much wind you can install on such an island. So they've been deprived of the benefits of renewable energy. This is really changing now because interconnections are planning. And of course, 100% renewable penetration for small islands with batteries is also envisaged. And we hope that not before long, some of those islands will power the mainland, send clean electricity to the mainland to change the energy mix of the country, because the energy mix of the country is not very good. It's fossil fuel dominated. I think Alkim was asking me how's the percentage of renewables. Whether you can see it, it's increasing, but still the vast majority is fossil fuel. And this is only the interconnected system, does not take into account the autonomous power stations. We spend 1 billion euros per year powering diesel stations in the islands. It's unacceptable in this time of phase with climate change as it is. So the future that is going to change all that and bring something new. First of all, let's look at the National Energy Climate Plan. This is a European policy, which Sedef was asking. We had the 2020 targets for the whole of Europe. On the whole, they were achieved. Greece, I think, achieved its own targets. This is the plan for 2030. First of all, with emissions, we target the reduction of emissions by 56% compared to 2005 emissions. 56, roughly just 1 point above the European average. But for renewable energy, the share of the gross final energy consumption should be a minimum share of 35% from renewables, 3 points ahead of the European average. Now that means, and we have to be clear on that, simply because the transport, heating and cooling sectors do not have very high RES penetration, electricity generation will have to take the major percentage of that 35% in order to be achieved. So we're envisaging up to 64% of total electricity production to come from renewables by 2030. This is a tall order, and this is how it looks that it may happen. Currently, we're close to 9 giga, all renewables included, not just wind, because photovoltaics are quite high too. And we have to go up to 19. This is 1 giga per year. A market of 43 billions. That's really an opportunity. 43 billion market. And this is the breakdown by technology for this target. Of course, as you can expect, photovoltaics and wind are taking the lion's share of that target. But I would just like to draw your attention to geothermal energy, which has a small 0.1%, 100 megawatt by 2030, which is really a shame because we have very high enthalpy fields that can produce electricity, 400, 500 megawatt electricity, and we don't do it because of local opposition and lack of political will. And I say that because Turkey is really doing fantastically well in geothermal energy, and we could at least follow your example, but we don't. And this is the market as it is now, 35 giga of applications in the regulatory authority. Okay, it's a maximization of things, you know, people just, it's easy to apply. Obviously, not all of these applications will be granted, but let me tell you that even as we speak, people are continuing to apply. I had a discussion this afternoon, somebody submitting 1 giga application tomorrow. So, you know, things are moving because the market is going to be there. So the market is going to be reformed to accommodate the new changes. And that's an interesting change for the Greek market. First of all, the licensing reform. As always, the new law is trying to simplify the old law. Well, they've done some simplifications, environmental license lasting for 15 years. There's shorter deadlines for a number of procedures. There's special project category where if you have a really large investment, then you can expect some fast track treatment. But I think the major change that really stands out is the production license. Perhaps some of you have heard of the production license. It used to be of some importance. Now it has changed to certification of RES producers. What is the difference? The difference is that certification is issued more quickly, it costs more money, and it doesn't last forever. I think really they're aiming to do away with opportunist applicants, people who just submit an application waiting for somebody to sell it. And I think that's for me, that's a good clause there. But also the license reform is going to be followed by a change in the power market reform. And this is a legislation that's been going on for quite some time. You see the laws there. I can tell you numerous more laws that have been in between. And as you know, a new law is coming to simplify the legislation that was already simplified by the previous legislation. It's an endless bureaucratic maze, and it doesn't really end for, it just going on forever and ever. But I think I have to say that it's very important to remember that political vision and political will that goes beyond the term in office is what's needed to drive policy change, and policy change motivates the markets and the people. And really we lack that because mostly political leaders look, their horizon ends to the next elections. They don't see further than that. And that's really a problem for most societies. Now, we are changing our electricity market as well, which is very important. Now, currently, we have the mandatory pool system, which is how it's depicted here. And we have to be streamlined with the European system, which is the target model. And this is the target model. It's 4 separate markets within the target model. And actually, it's been in operation for a few weeks now, full of baby diseases. People are complaining, people are shouting, the government's apologizing, promising to correct it. It's an interesting situation. I really don't want to take any part of that. I don't really understand half of it. So I'm moving on. The most important thing is with this change and because of the direction for competition from the European Union, feed-in tariff had to go. Feed-in tariff is dead. Feed-in tariff, of course, remains for all projects, but all new projects now under a new scheme. They, first of all, producers sell directly to the electricity market, the electricity market I showed before. They are subject to balancing responsibilities, and they are granted a premium, which is the feed-in premium. And we managed to get approval for a sliding feed-in premium, which is really a reference price plus what you get from the market. It's something that really is leading to the auctions. And we already have had our first 16 auctions. We had a pilot auction in December 2016, and a number of them after that. We had a couple of technology neutral, which did not go that badly. Overall, almost 3 giga of projects were awarded via auctions, which is not small feat, really. And you can see the prices in the next slide, how they developed for wind, MPV, and technology neutral. We even reached a low price of 49.8. It proves, like in other markets, that competition reduces prices. Above all, for me, it proves that wind energy and solar energy are competitive. Given the correct environment in which they can flourish, if they have the visibility, if they have the volumes, everything is okay. It's not the price that's the real determinant. You can accept even lower prices. The thing is to know what's happening. You cannot, the risk factor, I think, is what really is making everything more difficult. And there is offshore. This is the new in everybody's life, especially in the European Union life. European Union is really surprised everybody because it announced that it wants 25-fold increase of its offshore capacity. It's targeting North Sea, Baltic, Atlantic, Mediterranean, the Black Sea, and it really aims at 60 gigawatt by 2030 and 300 gigawatt by 2050. Of course, let me say, first of all, that the Mediterranean is not the North Sea. We don't have the shallow waters here that they have up there. There you go 10 kilometers and you have 10 meters depth. Here you go 10 meters and you have 10 kilometers depth. So we need another technology, and that technology is the floating technology. It's commercial. We will be happy to see it tried and tested even more. I know there's a lot of consultation being carried out. Regulations are looked at, legislation is looked at. My personal opinion, we won't see an offshore park before maybe at the end of this decade, more probably the beginning of the next decade. I hope I would live to see it. It would be an interesting thing to see an offshore wind park in our waters. Let's see the global picture quickly, because that's very important too, because we work within that world. Okay, renewables increased in 2019, as Sedef said in her introductory invitation to this webinar, but increased really moderately. I mean, this is not really the increment you would want from a source that's supposed to replace fossil fuels. We have 2,600 gigawatt, of which hydro is 55%, wind 25, and PV 24. These are not really encouraging numbers. We can see the countries which are led the way in 2019. I'm only putting this up to see that Turkey is #2 in solar water heating. Policy driven, I will say again. I'm going to be boring tonight, but I want to keep saying that. It's policy driven. And look at the slide with the cumulative leaders up to 2019. Turkey is 4th in geothermal capacity, 3rd in solar water heating capacity, 2nd in geothermal heat output, and even small Cyprus is 2nd in per capita solar water heating. If that isn't policy driven, what is? Solar and wind increased by almost 200 gigawatt, 115 for solar, 60 for wind. Actually, that was the 2nd largest increase for wind energy globally, with 64 being 2015. But the question is that the increase in renewables is less than the increase in energy demand globally. Energy demand grew by 7.2%. Renewables met only 29% of that. The rest was made by fossil fuels. We can never close the gap with such rates. I mean, this is really a sad picture. And this is really presented here. 80% of total final energy consumption still comes from fossil fuels. It's unacceptable. It doesn't really say anything. And we're talking of markets which can really take off, and they're really bogged down because of bureaucratic measures and lack of visibility, and this is the end result. Imagine if we had doubled the installations this year or next year. This is the end result. The RES share rose from 9.6% in 2013 to 11% in 2018. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. And that is because 80% of all our energy consumption is due to heating, cooling, and transport, where the rest in the penetration is really very low. We really have to change that. We really have to double down on this one and make changes to increase the penetration of renewables in those three sectors. And why? Because we have a climate emergency and the climate action is not doing very well. These are the sectors where climate action is measured. Only 2 sectors get a green coloring. I'm not going to go into details. All the other sectors are either yellow or red, or even worse at the bottom, insufficient data. Insufficient data, 2020. What we need to do to keep with the climate goal of 2015, COP21, ramp up renewables 6 times faster, transition to electric vehicles 22 times faster, increase tree cover 5 times faster, phase out coal power 5 times faster, 8 times faster increase use of carbon fuels, 1.5 electrification of industry. This should be our targets. And these targets cannot be done with lack of visibility and unknown volumes for the next years. This is definitely, we need a change in everything. And why? Why? Because warming is there. The 20th century has the hottest years in nearly 2,000 years. You can see the decades. These are the hottest years. They were all in the 20th century. And 2020 is going to be the hottest. They expect to be the hottest ever. It's going to take its place in this low, kicking out probably 2019. And this graph is my favorite graph. I've been showing it for a couple of decades or even more. It shows the correlation between CO2 concentration and temperature. And this graph is 400,000 years. The correlation is uncanny. If anybody had any doubt that CO2 concentration is affecting the temperature. We don't really have an option and we don't have time. 1.5 special report said clearly that we have 10 years and half a degree before a climate catastrophe. We can't really sit back and watch things happen. A wise world would have chosen all that this fantastic cartoon is depicting without any threat of extinction. Yes, for nothing. We should change this word to better for nothing. But perhaps Homo sapiens is not so wise after all. Teşekkür ederim. I hope I said it correctly. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Ioannis, if you show the last slide that our audience...
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I mean, details.
Okay, here contact details. Let's leave it for a while. If anybody wants to contact me, even for a joke or for a story or for some information about the Greek market, the opportunities are there. The opportunities are everywhere. But it's sad that I think the last sector of this world that's moving is the political sector. They don't really realize what they have to do. So.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for...
I don't know how long I took, Sedef, but thank you for letting me.
It's perfect. Your timing is perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I am, in the meantime, I'm checking if there is any questions from the YouTube. Just a sec. Actually, we have some questions, but these are okay. Emre Pınar, first of all, he asked for if there is any offshore, studies, and probably he's asking for investments in Greece.
Not studies yet. A lot of people are looking at the regulations and the legislation that may be needed in order to, if you think about it, offshore is a huge intervention in the sea. You have to consider so many things: fishing, tourism, shipping, the marine environment, the hoteliers who are going to really bombard the offshores if they see them across their hotels because they think it's going to destroy tourism for them. So we already have so much trouble with local opposition. Mm-hmm. No, it's really, and of course, bathymetry. We have to see the depths, and we have to wait for the technology to mature. And,
yes,
that's the most important. I don't think it's something of this decade. It will take much longer. Mm-hmm. We're not likely to have shallow waters like they do up north.
And also he's asking if there is any storage applications in Greece. I mean, storage systems, I believe he's asking.
I think he's asking because he knows. Yes, there are applications for storage facilities. Well, my omission, I should have mentioned it. Yes, there is a lot of interest in storage in Greece. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of interest for pump storage units. And the way with the mountains and the rivers in the Greek mainland really helps for that. We have a possibility for a number of large pump hydro systems. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, there are storage also applications for gas, but I'm not interested in gas, so I'm not going to talk about that. But yes, there are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think this question comes for the Alkım and Güray Bey. I'll just reread the Turkish version and I'll translate. Sorry, Dr. Ioannis. Gün öncesi piyasası rüzgar üretim tahmin hataları çok fazla olmaktadır. Yani PIMUM'da çok fazla hata var diyor. Ortaya çıkan dengesizlerden nasıl kurtuluyorsunuz, nasıl azaltılıyor diye bir soru sormuş. Tabii bu biraz teknik bir soru ama bilmiyorum, cevap vermek ister misiniz?
Ben verebilirim, belki ben başlayabilirim. I'm sorry. Should I go in English? I'm sorry for that.
It's about they had market predictions. I mean, uncertainties, defaults in the wind. How we are avoiding them. I don't know if I'm translating right. Right, Alkim? What he means that.
Yes. Yeah. So about the balancing, it's one of the problems. Of wind power plants, what we do is that we are signing portfolio balancing agreements with wholesalers, so that we share the gains and the losses. We have a special agreement, because of the imbalance you can gain and you can also lose money. So how we define it is to sign a portfolio balancing agreement, so that there's a fixed price and the cost and what you will have. This is how we mitigate the risks. Mm-hmm. Also, we are working on new softwares for estimating, wind energy prediction. So we are having better results, but of course, it's not possible to estimate with 100% accuracy.
But maybe in addition to this commercial or virtual solution of imbalancing groups that we have in Turkey, we have also several technical solutions like better forecasting, more accuracy. And please don't forget, each and every megawatt, each and every turbine commissioned into one region, into one large section or sector of a country adds more data for us. And as of today, big data is the king. So like in every industry, big data is really helpful to predict better, to forecast much less percentages for imbalancing, plus the energy storage. Mm-hmm. And also hybrid solutions. So wind and solar are really sister to brother. They are helpful to generate much more efficiently. And if we consider to add any energy storage facility next to it, it is really helping to have a wind power plant almost acting kind of a base load. I'm saying almost to exaggerate in purpose, but it's really useful to have less imbalancing units for us.
So from your explanation, I can say that you're also warm to, for the hybrid system. So with the current or previous developments or the farms that you have in operation, actually, in general, in global, because RES is a global investors, do you have any hybrid projects, Güray Bey, in other countries?
Yes, we have some hybrid projects. It is also by countries. Different countries had adopted hybrid regulations or intended to have hybridization on existing wind farms with a different pace. But as of today, I may say that Turkey is one of the leading countries in terms of timing, not in terms of ease of application or process speed. But it's one of the leading countries to recognize these hybridization solutions. But more importantly, there is also the energy storage integration to the existing wind farms, which is also creating tremendous advantages for existing wind farms or to be constructed ones.
But I'm not aware if we have any installed big energy storage system in Turkey yet. I haven't seen.
Not yet. We have some trials, some micro projects on micro megawatt level, kilowatt levels, but we don't have any installed capacity at grid level with industrial size.
This is really a mini grid application at the moment. Especially sub-Saharan Africa, there you'll find it, Storage there is a necessity, you cannot do otherwise. So for a connected grid, it's difficult you don't really need the storage now. You will need it later to secure the balance of the grid when you get the fossil fuels out of the way.
Yes. What about so I'm asking, I'm asking for all of you. What do you think about the Green Deal, Green Bonds system? Is it, I don't know if in Greece, if you have it in Greece, Dr. Ioannis, because we haven't started in Turkey yet. But what will it be easy to switch to green bonds? To have the share of the utility companies like RES and TWRE, like Polat Energy, into the green system. So you'll also create additional income for your investments or all your works. What do you think?
Well, first of all, let's separate Green Deal and green bonds. Green bonds is something that's logical. You want to attract the community to get into the projects. I think it's a great idea. You can really have them in there. At least you will do away with the local opposition. Now, the Green Deal is another story, and it has really mixed up with the green recovery from COVID. And everybody is doing their best to make sure that the green recovery is going to build back better. We're not going to recover to find ourselves where we were. And it's not only just changing energy sources. We've got to change a few things. So a build back better through green recovery means money are going to climate justice, to inclusion, to a lot of things. Now, this is not happening because through green recovery, a lot of money is already targeted to fossil fuel companies as well. Now, there's been, reports have been in major European newspapers. So the Green Deal is a good idea. You need money to be pumped into the economy to resurrect it after this near-death sentence from COVID. And it's a good thing to restart it in a greener way and get visibility, get volumes, change the order of the day. It should happen. I ended up with climate change because really this is the biggest driver now. 20 years back, it wasn't perhaps at our door. Now it's inside our house. Major disasters happen every day. It's going to get worse. There is only one answer. There are many answers, but the clear answer is renewable sources. We have to stop CO2. So it's a fantastic opportunity through the Green Deal. I'm happy that Joe Biden has committed himself to sign the Paris Agreement on the 21st of January, and I'm sure he will. So perhaps with a new impetus, we can really, the world can really do something about changing, building back better, not the same. And we don't have to change all the energy sources. The problem was not that we were using fossil fuels, is that we were using them badly. we're wasting things. So we need to rethink a lot of things, and we can do it. And this is also a matter of inclusion and gender equality, Madam Sedef. I mean, that's these things have to come into play as well. It's not only justice, climate equality and justice. There are a lot of things that have to come to where they should be.
Yes, thank you. What do you think, Güray Bey?
Sorry, I was on mute. The Green Deal, the European Green Deal will for sure create opportunity and challenge for all of us. For wind industry itself, it will double probably the needs and the demands from the market for more wind-sourced electricity. But it will also bring some challenges to Turkish manufacturers and exporters. So details will be so important. But it will also boost the corporate PPA requests. That's the important part, I believe. That's the game-changing part of the post current feed-in tariff period for us. About green bonding, I can mention mainly the brand new Turkish green certificate system, which is not exactly green bonding, but a kind of carbon credit certificates that the government APDK has just released under the name of YEK-G. It will also create a kind of opportunity for Turkish carbon credit owners to easily trade their credits into first local level and then maybe excel those credits at international level with higher revenues.
So actually with the corporate agreements, I mean with the PPAs, that then the green, not the bonds, green deals coming. So, I mean, do you think we need some standards also? Again, I'm going back to my original question at first. I mean, do we need a clear information or guideline for the merchant market for the PPAs from government? Or we will just, you know, or as investors, developers, you will just learn by doing it. How it will be, Güray Bey? What do you think?
It has been commonly discussed in various platforms, not only at wind, but wind plus solar plus consumers, large distribution companies, etc. And the final common point is we don't really need to have another regulation about this corporate PPAs. Because the current PPAs, not really long-term, but existing ones, even though they were much more signed with and from thermal power plants or hydros up to now in Turkey. They are quite efficient, they are quite tradable, and helped up to a certain point to raise finance for those shorter period of times. What we do need is somehow to create a mechanism where off-takers or the balance sheet of off-takers should be seen credible by Turkish lenders, banks. So that's the biggest dilemma. That's the biggest missing point, because you may find out some large-scale consumers, or you may regroup some small to medium-sized consumers to make up a corporate PPA. But the question will be, is your lender accepting those companies' balance sheet? Because you are looking for a commitment of 5, 8, 10, 12 years time. And in some challenging markets like Turkey, the credibility, the health of the financial situation of the off-takers is still the critical part. So maybe that would be an area where we can expect fruitful or securing regulation by the government.
Okay, so we are at the end of today. It will be, you know, independent buyers and independent sellers, and it will be a merchant market. And yes, I mean, I mean, it is project finance. So
issue.
if the bank doesn't agree, doesn't find your buyer reliable, and if they keep on comparing with the government guarantee, so it's not possible to switch. So yeah, there's definitely it should be there should be much more flexible, or as you said, maybe like other solutions like a pool, maybe, like to have a buying pool of the, I don't know, organized zones and etc., or the very big consumers. But plus now the big consumers, like the very big industrial groups like the textile and the automotive, they're actually building their own solar farms on the roof. So we'll see. So actually the possible buyers are now become developers and investors currently. So
that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's good, but also it's not good for, wind, because there are potential customers of ours. It is both sides, it's like, it's a tricky position. So yeah, Alkım Hanım, what do you also think about this Green Deal and the green bonds?
Let me start with the Green Deal. So, of course, to make Europe climate neutral by 2050, exciting targets, and the expectation, emission reductions, and this investments of 1 trillion euros and everything. It seems really, really exciting from our point of view. Of course, I completely agree with Ioannis that there should be also changes in the consumption patterns, beyond this mechanism, because we're always trying to associate growth, more and more consumption on the one hand, and on the other hand, we believe that these can be neutralized. There can be a clean transition for this huge growth. So it's quite challenging, I must say. So on a wider perspective, there should be some changes in the, let's say, growth patterns, and also we have to put more effort that this transition to this low carbon economy does not necessarily mean that it's going to be a just transition. It's always associated with fairness, equality in terms of gender participation and other issues, but it's not. It will not be this case if certain actions are taken. But from my perspective, it's still very, very exciting, because in Turkey, we are far beyond even these targets. So for us, what is important is that, we're talking about green bonds now, this YEKKE or green certificate, which is a kind of guarantee of origin certificate introduced by the regulatory authority. It's of course something positive. It is good, but we will see the demand. There is a tariff defined for that, and the rules will be defined, I think, next year. So normally, there is nothing forcing the let's say industrialists to offset their carbons. There is not a carbon credit, so it's a question mark whether there will be demand to pay more for green energy. One aspect of this Green Deal is that there is this carbon border adjustment mechanism. So in order to protect the European manufacturers from the countries which are not giving so much importance to environment, let's say, they are going to apply some taxes for certain exports. It's very important for Turkey, because we are heavily exporting to European countries. I think, as far as I know, 50% of our exports are going to European countries. So this green certificate may be beneficial in that respect, but I think we're going to see how it's going to evolve within time, if it will be effective or not. Of course, if it will be effective, it's a good incentive for renewables as well, but we have to see it. And certainly there should be more efforts from the Turkish government, let's say, to adapt to this. As an EU candidate and as a main exporter to EU, now our, let's say, perspective is that Turkey is a developing country and our priority is development, growth, industrial growth. So climate targets are still they are not the priority, to let's be honest. So Turkey has not even signed the Paris Treaty yet. So there are many, many steps that should be taken. But in order to adapt to the Green Deal, of course, one thing to do for sure is to increase the portion of renewables in Turkey. It is not enough, and with the huge potential of Turkey that we have today. And as we talked in the beginning of this, webinar, there should be some visibility, there should be good policy making. Again, I agree with Ioannis that there should be a long-term energy policy, which should be followed with, we shouldn't change with changing governments, changing bureaucrats or officials. There must be constant effort to meet the targets. Setting ambitious targets is good, but if you don't establish policies necessary to meet these targets, they are meaningless at the end, and you lose reliability. For all the investors, local or foreign, it doesn't matter really. You lose the reliability if you don't pay attention. So, and finally, about the PPAs, corporate PPAs are good, especially in the, let's say, post-feed-in tariff scheme. They are an important tool for project finance, especially in, America and in Europe. But in Turkey, in order to finance the project, you need to have a long-term stable income. So in US, for instance, these, PPAs are signed for 10 years, 15 years. In Turkey, it's not possible because it is not possible to have a long-term price projection. So what we can sign is maximum 1 year. Maybe there are a couple of 2 years. I'm not even sure of this. So financing our wind parks through corporate PPAs are a bit, it is not possible with the current conditions. So even if you have the legislation or whatever, with the current prices, with the current invisibility, it's very, very difficult. So what we have to do is just to, first of all, take the immediate actions to provide the, let's say, continuation of the industry, to prevent people losing their jobs, to prevent this industry, dissolving slowly, because we already started to slow down in terms of wind investments. And if effective policies are not implemented, we can lose everything that we have built in the last 10 to 15 years. So I think there are a lot of things that should be considered and that should be done by the policy makers.
Yeah. I think, I agree with all that, the reasoning, of course. What you said about the climate action and the climate goals that Turkey has or does not have, or at least they are not priority, this is where the moment. It's really something that applies to a number of countries. And I think it's up to the global community to make sure that this thing changes. And this cannot change by force, of course. It has to change through measures that will make that change feasible. So the international community should really make up. I mean, I'll go to Africa. Let's leave Turkey for a moment. Africa at the moment has no electricity. It's easy for Africa to install a coal plant. There are a lot of people who are interested to install coal plants. But Shouldn't we avoid a new coal plant being built in Africa? So shouldn't the international community assist those governments to leapfrog above fossil fuels and land in renewables? Now, there are various escalations of that, okay? So China is holding back. Russia is holding back to just, take the large guys. So the international community, who is really persuaded that climate change is here to stay, and we're going to really see the worst of it as things progress. And as we speak now, we have locked in 3 degrees, not 1.5, 3 degrees is what we're doing. So they should find a way to assist those countries like Turkey to make climate goals a priority by supporting such an industry that has proved that it can deliver. You have proven you can deliver goods. So it's really unbelievable that you're not having the support you should have. So, and you're just an example, okay? I showed you solar water heaters, geothermal energy. You're doing great in a number of fields. They should really be, supporting that to grow. So.
Yes, it's all coming out to the politics, I think.
Yes, it is. Or the lack of politics.
Yes.
I said it from the beginning, is the lack of political vision and will. We are far ahead of our politicians. It's a fact.
It's an important motivation tool, of course, for everybody. I would like to announce some figures that, about going back to the general topics of climate change and the energy transition, and so just transition, and as Alkim mentioned, and of course the gender equality and generation equality. Actually, the UN woman announced that we will not be talking about gender issues, we will be talking about generation issues, that all the coming new generations will have the same quality of life we have, or we should deliver whatever we have. Yes, they won't. So it is now even the gender topic is now fading away. So we are trying to save the world if we could. So last month, by November, International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA is published Renewable Energy and Jobs Annual 2020 report, and I took some key figures from there. So when I see it's 11.5 billion of jobs counted in renewable energy back in 2019, and 3.8 million of them were in solar PV industry, and 1.2 million of them were in wind industry, actually. And it is only over 1/5 of it, was the woman employment. So, sector-wide, woman employment level in renewables is only 32% in global. But for fossil fuel, it's even 22%. So yes, it seems like a wind industry is much more modern and equal comparing with the fossil fuels. But yes, still there is a big gap in between, the percentage and figures. So while we are closing our session, I would like to get each of your qualified opinion about the suggestions who would like to work in the wind industry in the green fields, and also your suggestions to employers, how they can be motivated to hire more women.
I go first. First of all, let me respond to that about generation. Recently, there are a lot of tweets coming out of the young climate activists who say, we were not in the room when you decided the 2 degrees limit, okay? And when the 2 degrees, you guys are not gonna be around. Guys like me, really, how can guys like me decide for the future of young generation? It's unacceptable. They're going to really have to face it. And all guys in suits, even older than me, decide that. So that's a great issue. The generation gap in decision-making is huge, okay? I'm reading perhaps from the same report that you read, because I did my homework as well. What are the reasons why, What are the reasons why women are not given? 72% is cultural and social norms. this is 2021 coming. Lack of gender-sensitive policies, lack of gender-sensitive training opportunities, inequity in ownership of assets, lack of mentoring opportunities, lack of skills. These are the reasons why women are not given equal jobs with men. I think we all know the data that it's, I will say this. This planet has been run by men for a few thousand years, and look where we are at. We're at the brink of destruction. I think it's high time women took over. Women can do it better, and this is not a partisan view. It's a logical view. Women are better in leadership. They're better in decision making. And I'm talking from experience. I have 2 daughters, and I was married to a very great lady, so I have personal experience of that too. How worse can it be? We're at the brink of destruction. So, okay, I know this is a little funny. I'm not really making it. Okay. So to persuade the companies to employ more women, I mean, this cannot come from a discussion in a webinar. This is something that has to change the mentality, and this will come with the new generation. The old generation thinks the way it thinks. We have 2 children and 1 girl. Okay, I mean, how do they say? You know, I mean, this mentality of the old, still in some areas, guys marry more than 1 woman. Okay, there are areas in Africa where they do genital mutilation. There are terrible things happening. Anyway, I don't want to go into horrific details. So the change in mentality will not come overnight. It will not come overnight. I'm very happy that I met you with what you're trying to do. That's why I approached you, and I put up your work in the site. Because this is how you change mentality. But it's going to be a slow process. Okay.
Yes, it is going to be a slow process. And as a TWRE, we have been, as an Alkim, also one of our members from the beginning, and also supporters of our group. We have been trying to make women visible to start with. Yeah. Because, I mean, it wasn't okay. We have a woman in the chief positions, in the C-level positions, a few ones, and very, very actually minor entrepreneurs in the energy industry. Actually, we have our figures. I mean, I'm going to refresh the figures for beginning, I mean, by June. From the last Jan, now we have about 1.4K, 1,400 members online to our digital platform. And when we run the analysis for 1,000 back in last January, and we reached it was only 1.5% of them who were entrepreneurs or who has their own business, or, you know, who were like in the management or decision-making policies, like, I don't know. And you see already 2 of them in the screen. One is Alkim and one is myself. So it is, you know, where are the other women? Where are the other strong women who needs to be supported and, you know, who needs to be more visible, while even, you know, in the policy making positions, and, you know, for everywhere actually. And with our projects, actually COVID, I mean, I'm not happy we have the COVID, of course, but COVID makes us to smooth the digitalize more quickly as a platform as well. Okay. So we were able to design and execute many talks and seminars, and also technical trainings, not only for women, for everybody, for all young people, for all young engineers who would like to work in the wind and solar and, you know, the biomass, you know, the renewable industry. And now we are doing the in collaboration with the Nordex Acciona. We done second time last year, and this year, even for the COVID, we done physically with the protections, of course, the technical workshop, 3 days detailed workshop to become a wind turbine technician. So nobody thinks about it before. Nobody done this before. I even didn't know. I wasn't sure that if we were all with all my friends and the team, we were able to manage it. but somehow we were lucky. Maybe we were insisting, and we are just doing some creating bigger flows, bigger waves into the sea, just throwing some small stones, but we are going somewhere. Yeah, it is now we have countable results. Like today's webinar, I am sitting all you very, very valuable people I know from sector for many years, and you accept our invitation. So which means that, okay, TWRE has a name.
And my portal is at your disposal. Anything you want to publish there, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you very much, sir. And it's like this is the way. And yeah, and I believe I believe in equality from the beginning. It's not being man or woman. It's because our brains.
It's not negotiable. It's not negotiable.
It is. How can I say? It is fulfilling each other. We think differently, but we use different things. But together, that we create a very strong, very valuable, and very high level and long-term success. That's what I believe. So yes. I'll give the word to Güray Bey because I can talk till the morning. Sorry.
Thanks a lot. I think as the wind industry, not only in Turkey, but around the globe, we have again one big advantage. It is still a young industry. So next to the fact of being young, it should be also a dynamic industry because of the evolution of the technological, commercial, political willingness, etc. So the industry should keep itself in a very dynamic phase. And when you add young plus dynamics, that means that you have to recruit young people, you have to recruit diversified people, you have to be open-minded in order to be successful in any kind of company, in any kind of wind industry around the world. And it is also a proven thing that women as employee or our colleagues, they are really accepted in all levels from our experiences in Turkey. They are really first quality proven colleagues, and it is by nature, wind industry can be seen at the very beginning, kind of a field related industry or field related project site. So it could be accepted or seen as a difficult platform for women, but as of today, it is 100% denied. Women workers, employees, colleagues, engineers, technicians, project developers are working in different levels, different companies, etc. So I think you have proven all your qualities, and gender equality is not a kind of, it's not a thing that we should ask, it should be, it is already there. By the way, I am also proud to say that in TWRE we have the first time ever a woman as the General Secretary.
Yes, yes.
Representing the development side or the consulting side, and she is the current General Secretary of the organization, of our umbrella organization. For sure, we want to see more dedicated women, as you have mentioned. We can advise to all brand new engineers, bachelor degrees to join to wind industry, but for sure they have to prepare themselves well, because as it's a dynamic industry, the accumulated knowledge that we have as the industry professionals is quickly, rapidly changing. So any newcomer to the industry should also adapt themselves and should also spend some real time to read regulations, technical manuals, and several reports in order to be at the height of this industry.
Yes, it is a educated and high level knowledge of industry for sure, and yeah, we are all reading and updating ourselves every day, and yeah, for our newcomers, they have to be refreshing themselves with the knowledge and try to keep up with the speed of the industry. I agree with you totally, Güray Bey. Thank you very much. And Alkim Hanım, I'll give you the last word. Then we can close our panel.
Yes, thank you very much, Sedef. So it's a very deep subject. Where should I start? I don't know. I can talk till the morning, but so I think everybody agrees that there should be more people in the sector. What I'm going to emphasize is that this is important for a fair society, but it's not, it's not convincing, let's say, investors to employ more and more women. So I'm going to just talk about some studies, actually. So please look at the studies showing with diverse, with managements, companies with managements, including females, I mean executive roles, of course, are performing better. So the inclusion of women in the industry is not only good for a fair society, for human rights, etc., but it's good for the economy. It's good for higher returns. So several studies proves that the inclusion of women in the executive roles in the boards so creates improved profitability, more than, between 35 to 70% more profitability. These companies are better prepared to survive financial shocks. They have an increased inclination towards, most importantly, they have an increased action to, environmental issues, a decreased litigation for environmental breaches, and more serious decarbonization policies. So just if by nature, women are more sensitive to environment, I think. So the women in the sector, they do not see their positions as only a tool to make money or to, advance their careers, but as a significant contribution to their children, to future generations, etc. So there's this kind of ethical or emotional perspective from the women's side. I'm not saying that men do not feel it. Of course, everybody is also motivated for this, but for women, I think this is more important. So if we're talking about a transition to a low carbon economy, if we're talking about environmental targets and everything, inclusion of women in the sector is more and more important, especially for the renewable energy sector. So my advice, of course, for the investors is that you should have some policies to increase the number of women in your company and in the sector at all. There should be some workplace policies. There should be specific work, family life balance policies. There should be access to training programs, education programs, mentorship programs, etc. But this is not all about, companies, but all stakeholders, NGOs, professional organizations in the sector, like TWRE, for instance. And most importantly, the policymakers, they all have roles and responsibilities. The root of the problem starts even from access to education. So it's a very, very deep subject. So everybody, I think, should do their best, and especially women coming to, let's say, executive roles must be playing an important role to increase the number of women working in the sector, in my opinion. And finally, my suggestions for the woman who wants to work in the sector is that to believe in yourself. The job itself does not have a gender, so you can do it. Just prepare to work hard. And also, I think there should be more women interested, let's say, selecting science, technology, or engineering subjects in their training, because it's very difficult for us to find women employees locally. I mean, I'm not talking about Istanbul, but usually we are employing our people locally from the cities that we have the power plants. So we have a really hard time to find, for instance, female technicians. We don't have any. We, of course, have women engineers, but they are not really, they don't want to work on site. We had really successful, actually, project managers and site engineers, but the numbers are very, very limited. And finally, don't afraid to take responsibility, don't take to use initiative, and seek the help and advice of others when needed. Use the mentorship programs, use the networks like, you know, TWRE. There are many networks, many membership programs. So these are basically my suggestions for women, and special thanks to you, Sedef, for creating such a platform. I think this is quite important when we consider the limited number of women working in the industry, especially in the executive roles. It's really encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Alkım. Actually, you were way crowded than ever expected or imagined. When I started this group, I was just thinking about, we were just a couple of hundreds. Now we are about almost 1.5 thousand. So it's going every day, and energy is a really a strong multidisciplinary work. So, you know, from social, from the science, from the other disciplines, we have multi experts with different ages, different educations. You know, the woman who's looking forward to participate in the different part of the sectors, and it is a strong network. And yes, I agree with you that also girls and women also should love the work. And then, as I'm always saying, then if you love the work, the work loves you back. So it is a mutual effort and, you know, mutual interest. And again, within the positive approach from the employers and the equal rights, even when you get hired, you have the equal opportunity with a male candidate. Then, you know, it's up to you to show your performance and, you know, to like or to love the job or not. So, you know, the rest is all your own success. But yeah, to start with, we are also trying to motivate the employers to give the equal right from starting from the election stage. And we are currently collaborating, supporting the manufacturers, the worldwide manufacturers, and also headquarters, and also like the blade manufacturers, like the turbine manufacturers and tower manufacturers in Turkey. So we are trying to develop more employment program. So yeah, we will see. We are going someplace, but before we have to solve this climate change issue, if we will survive all together, then I don't want to. I don't want to put all these.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Although I agree with the analysis and the targeting within the sector, gender equality is not particular to the wind energy. We're talking about the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best things that we can do, because it's a slow process, it covers all the countries and all the sectors, is to talk to women to raise their sons to respect girls as equal.
Yes.
If you do that, and you can approach women better than anybody else, approach women to teach their sons to respect girls.
Yes, you're
and
right.
Play with dolls as well.
Yes.
Okay. If you do that, perhaps in 20 years' time, there may be a different. It's
better.
not just wind energy.
Respectful,
terrible things happening all over the world. Terrible things.
Yes. Okay. If you have any last words I can have, then we can say goodbye for tonight.
I'm very happy to have taken part of this panel. I hope next time it will be in a nice table with kebab and some wine, either in Istanbul or in Athens, and I'll be happy to meet you personally. I think we met
hopefully
in Hamburg.
Yes.
I think we met in Hamburg. Now, the more I think.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you very much. I'm much obliged, and I'm very happy to have met you.
Thank you, Dr. Ioannis. Güray Bey?
To me also, it was a pleasure sharing this nice evening with such a pleasant colleagues and sharing some of our experiences. I would like to wish a happy new year, but more importantly, a healthy, windy, and pleasant new year for all of us.
Thank
you. Yes. Alkim.
Thank you very much. So it was a pleasure to meet Ioannis as well and everybody. And thank you to Sedef to create this opportunity for us. So stay safe.
Thank you very much. We still have 41 people watching us live on YouTube, by the way. We still have 41 people watching, but yes, we took a lot of time, and it's almost late night now. Thank you very much. I hope to meet and discuss in the better conditions with the better figures and results. I appreciate each of you to the contribution to the wind industry. Thank you very much. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.